The sound of shattered innocence can sometimes be louder than the breaking of glass. It happened in a moment so cruel that it almost seemed unreal. A young girl, barely 8 years old, sat trembling on the kitchen floor, clutching her baby brother tightly against her small chest. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she whispered over and over, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to," but her fragile apology was met with something far harsher than words. Her stepmother, with a cold glare in her eyes, tilted a heavy jug of milk and poured it straight over the child's head. The liquid splashed down like icy rain, soaking her orange dress, drenching the baby, and flooding the floor with a river of shame. The little girl sobbed harder, helpless and broken, while the woman loomed above her as if punishing her for existing. And then, from the doorway, a voice thundered, deep, shocked, and filled with a protective fury. "Stop." The word froze the air like lightning splitting a dark sky. It wasn't just any man who stood there, it was her father, a successful businessman known for his empire and wealth. But in that moment, he wasn't a millionaire. He was simply a father whose heart had just been torn open by the sight of his daughter's pain. His briefcase slipped from his hand and hit the wooden floor with a dull thud. His eyes, wide with disbelief, locked onto the cruel act unfolding before him. Before we dive deeper into this emotional story of love, betrayal, second chances, and the power of kindness, let me ask you this: if you believe every child deserves love, protection, and a second chance at happiness, then please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness Glow. By supporting, you're spreading light and hope to the world, one story at a time. The story begins months before that heartbreaking scene in the kitchen. The little girl's name was Lily. She had always been a cheerful, bright child with a smile that could melt the coldest hearts. But her life had not been easy. When she was just 5 years old, tragedy struck. Her mother, the gentle soul who had been her guiding light, passed away after a long illness. The loss shattered Lily's world. Her father, Richard, who was still young and consumed by work, found himself struggling to balance his empire and his broken family. Grief weighed heavily on him, and though he loved Lily deeply, he often buried himself in endless meetings and business trips to escape the unbearable silence of home. It was during one of those business ventures that Richard met Vanessa. She was beautiful, elegant, and carried herself with a confidence that seemed unshakable. To outsiders, she appeared to be the perfect woman, well-mannered, charming, and eager to build a family. Richard, lonely and still yearning for companionship, was drawn to her. Within months, Vanessa became his wife and moved into the mansion he had built for his first love, Lily's late mother. At first, Lily wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, Vanessa could fill a tiny part of the empty space in her heart. She tried calling her Mom, she tried to be helpful around the house, she even drew pictures of the three of them together, hoping for approval. But slowly, the mask slipped. Behind closed doors, Vanessa's smiles turned into scowls. She didn't see Lily as a child to be loved but as a nuisance, a reminder of the woman who came before her. Vanessa resented the way Richard's eyes softened whenever he looked at Lily, the way he called her, "my little sunshine." In her heart, jealousy grew like a thorny vine, wrapping tighter with each passing day. And when Richard wasn't around, her true nature revealed itself in harsh words and cruel punishments. Lily was too young to understand why her stepmother seemed to hate her. All she knew was that no matter how hard she tried to be good, it was never enough. The final straw came one morning when Lily, still half asleep, accidentally knocked over a bowl of cereal while trying to prepare breakfast for her baby brother. The milk spilled across the counter and dripped onto the floor, soaking the rug. Lily gasped, quickly grabbing napkins, whispering, oh no, I'll clean it, I'm sorry." But Vanessa stormed into the kitchen at that very moment, her eyes narrowing at the mess. Instead of helping or reassuring, she grabbed the pitcher of milk from the counter and, in a moment of cold fury, poured it directly over Lily's head. The little girl sobbed, clutching the baby tightly as if he were her only comfort. "Please, Mommy, I'm sorry," she cried, her voice trembling with desperation. But Vanessa didn't flinch. To her, the apology meant nothing. That was the exact second Richard walked into the kitchen. He had come home early from a meeting, hoping to surprise his family, but what he witnessed instead was something that cut him deeper than any business failure ever could. He had always known something wasn't right between Vanessa and Lily, but he had dismissed his instincts, blinded by charm and the hope of having a complete family again. Now the truth was splashed out before him, as raw, cruel, and undeniable as the milk dripping from his daughter's hair. His voice roared through the room, "Stop." The walls seemed to shake with the force of it. For a moment, even Vanessa froze, stunned that Richard had caught her. His eyes, usually calm and composed, now blazed with a fury that made her step back instinctively. He rushed to Lily, kneeling beside her, lifting the trembling girl into his arms while carefully ensuring the baby was safe. Lily buried her face in his chest, her small body shaking uncontrollably. Richard felt his heart break into 1,000 pieces. He whispered, "I'm here, sweetheart. Daddy's here. I won't let anyone hurt you ever again." His expensive suit soaked in milk and tears, but he didn't care. For the first time in years, he realized what truly mattered. But this was only the beginning. Because the truth had come to light, and Richard now faced a choice that would change everything: protect his daughter at all costs or risk losing her to the poison of cruelty that had crept into their home. Richard's chest heaved with a mixture of anger and sorrow as he held Lily close. He could feel her tiny hands gripping his shirt, desperate and afraid, as if she thought he might disappear just like her mother had. He kissed the top of her wet hair and tightened his embrace, silently vowing that he would never again look away from her pain. For too long, he had allowed his business, his wealth, and his own loneliness to blind him. And now, he had seen the cruelty with his own eyes. Vanessa's painted smile faltered, replaced by a flicker of panic. She tried to recover, her voice dripping with false sweetness as she said, "Richard, darling, you don't understand." She spilled everything. The baby could have been hurt, but her excuses shattered under the sharpness of his glare. For years, Richard had commanded boardrooms, negotiating deals worth millions, but never had his voice been so cold and final as it was in that moment. "Don't," he said firmly, his voice low but thunderous. "Don't you dare justify what you just did." Vanessa faltered, opening her mouth again, but Richard raised a hand. His usually calm, businesslike composure had transformed into something fierce, a father defending his child with everything in him. "You poured milk over my daughter's head while she held her baby brother. You humiliated her. You broke her spirit. And you dare to stand here and explain it away." His voice cracked slightly, not with weakness, but with the sheer weight of love and guilt crashing down on him. For the first time, Vanessa's confidence crumbled. Her mask of elegance slipped, revealing the bitterness beneath. "She's not my daughter, Richard," she spat, her voice sharp. "She's a spoiled, whining little girl who takes all of your attention. Everything I do, you compare to her mother. How do you expect me to live in this house with a constant shadow of your perfect past? I'm tired of it." Lily's small body stiffened at the words, her sobs quieting into a painful stillness. Richard looked down at his daughter, who now clutched him as though the world might collapse around her. His heart cracked even deeper. He turned his eyes back to Vanessa, his voice trembling with a mix of fury and disbelief. "Then you were never here for love. You were here for the house, the name, the money. You were here for me, not for us. And if you cannot love my child, then you do not love me." Silence filled the kitchen. Only the faint sound of Lily's sobbing and the drip of milk from the counter broke the air. Vanessa's lips tightened, realizing she had revealed too much. She tried to salvage her composure, but the damage was already done. Richard had seen her true self, and there was no going back. That night, Richard made one of the hardest decisions of his life. He asked Vanessa to leave. At first, she protested, threatened, even cried, switching masks faster than the eye could blink, but Richard didn't waver. "You chose this," he said firmly. "When you poured that milk, you poured away every ounce of trust one had in you." By morning, she was gone. But though Vanessa's presence had been removed, her cruelty lingered like a shadow. Lily was still broken. She had spent months, maybe years, trying to earn love that was never given, trying to be good enough for someone who only saw her as a burden. That kind of wound didn't heal overnight. Richard could see it in her eyes, the way she flinched when someone raised their voice, the way she whispered sorry even when she hadn't done anything wrong, the way she clung to her baby brother as if he were her only anchor. Richard knew that no amount of money, no mansion, no business success could erase what his daughter had endured. What she needed wasn't wealth, it was time, patience, and unconditional love. And for the first time in years, he cleared his calendar. The empire could wait. His daughter could not. Day by day, he began to rebuild the bond that had been strained by grief and neglect. He took Lily to the park, held her hand as she swung high into the air, and listened to her laughter, a sound he realized he hadn't heard in so long. He tucked her into bed each night, reading the stories her mother once read, his voice sometimes breaking, but never stopping. He told her every day, "You are my sunshine, my brave girl, and I love you more than anything." Slowly, Lily began to trust again. At first, her smiles were small and hesitant, like fragile flowers trying to bloom after a storm. But as weeks turned into months, the light in her eyes returned. She stopped apologizing for existing. She started drawing again, filling pages with colors and hope. And every time Richard saw her smile, he silently thanked the heavens for giving him a second chance to be the father his daughter deserved. But healing wasn't just about what Richard did for Lily. It was also about what Lily taught him. She showed him that kindness, even when it had been crushed, could still rise again. She showed him that love, once broken, could still be mended. And she reminded him of something his late wife once whispered to him: family isn't about perfection. It's about love that never gives up. Folded hands, if this story has touched your heart so far, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Glow. Your support helps us keep spreading stories of hope, love, and second chances. Months passed, and the mansion that once felt heavy with silence began to breathe again with laughter and warmth. Lily was healing, piece by piece, like shattered glass carefully fitted back together by love. Richard, once buried in his empire, found joy in the simplest things: braiding Lily's hair before school, watching her draw pictures at the kitchen table, or listening to her giggle as she played peekaboo with her baby brother. Yet, deep inside, he carried guilt, the kind only a parent can feel when they realize they could have protected sooner, loved stronger, and listened more closely. He often watched Lily from afar, marveling at her resilience. She had been hurt in ways a child should never be, yet she still carried a gentle spirit, still whispered "thank you" every time he kissed her goodnight. Her kindness, despite everything, humbled him. One rainy evening, as the family sat by the fireplace, Lily brought him a drawing. It showed 3 people, Richard, Lily, and her baby brother, all holding hands under a bright sun. At the top, in her uneven handwriting, she had written, "My family. My safe place." Tears welled up in Richard's eyes as he looked at her. In that moment, he understood something powerful. He had spent years chasing wealth, closing million-dollar deals, and building skyscrapers that touched the clouds, but none of it compared to this simple picture drawn by his daughter. This was his true legacy, being the kind of father his children could call their safe place. The real turning point came a few weeks later. Lily's school hosted a kindness fair, where children were encouraged to showcase projects about love, generosity, and compassion. Richard worried that Lily, still shy and cautious, might not want to participate. But to his surprise, she stood on the small stage in front of her classmates and teachers, clutching a piece of paper in her hands. Her voice trembled at first, but then grew steady as she said, "Sometimes, people are not kind. Sometimes, they hurt you even when you try to be good. But kindness doesn't stop just because someone was mean. My daddy told me that kindness is like light. Even if someone tries to cover it, it always finds a way to shine again." She paused, then smiled softly. "I know this because I have a daddy who showed me that I am loved no matter what. And that's the kind of person I want to be." The room erupted in applause. Richard, sitting in the audience, wiped his tears with trembling hands. He realized his daughter had not only healed, she had found the courage to inspire others. What had once been her pain was now her strength, a light bright enough to guide others out of their own darkness. Afterward, as they walked home hand in hand, Richard whispered, "I'm so proud of you, my sunshine." Lily looked up at him with eyes full of trust and said, "I'm proud of you too, Daddy. You didn't give up on me." Those words sank deep into his soul. He understood then that it wasn't about being the perfect father or erasing the past. It was about never giving up, about showing up every day with love, even when it was hard. That was what made a family unbreakable. From that day forward, Richard made a vow he would never break, no matter how high his business soared, no matter how many people praised his empire, his children would always come first. He had learned the greatest truth of all, that kindness begins at home, and the richest man in the world is not the one with the most money, but the one whose children know they are loved beyond measure. And so, what began with milk and tears ended with healing and hope. Lily's laughter filled the mansion once again, her drawings covered the walls, and her baby brother grew up in a home where kindness was no longer optional, but the very foundation of their lives. Sparkling heart, if this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Glow. Help us continue spreading love, second chances, and hope through stories that remind us all of the power of kindness. Sparkle's special request: comment below with the words, "Kindness never gives up," if you believe that love and compassion can heal even the deepest wounds.